We're here.
We're live. We're
We're
here
getting
live.
gold stars.
We're becoming live.
Yes, thank you to the committee members who are here, but also just recognizing we have valid reasons that we're missing our other two committee members this morning. So we're going to do our best to plow through some sections that are of greater importance to those who are present now. We have Ellen in the witness chair. Thank you, Ellen. And that's not a huge amount of guidance. I have my notes about sections where there's further markup needed.
And I have some thoughts.
Perhaps we could start from the beginning
But
where I know the two of you have questions and concerns. So parking, that means parking would come first. And I think our other two committee members were okay with the direction we were headed that we had articulated. We are waiting on draft 8.1, mostly because David caught something that was, and it was a holiday weekend. So and the rest just really appreciate that we have draft 8.1 and David needs to change something before we have that draft.
is he drafting now? Because dinner got called and I totally forgot to email him about the 20% on ADUs. Should I do that
Okay.
right now?
Yes. Let's just say yes.
Okay.
We have 2 days. So
Okay.
is it possible to get it up, Scott? Is that what you're doing right now? Yeah, because I think most other sections are okay. It's the very last section that was new, and then we can look at it there.
Are we
Is that
talking
okay?
about section 1
Okay.
being mostly okay? Is that what you're saying?
Well, section 1, we do have, the direction we were heading was keep one space, but add a variance up to 1.5 with certain conditions for parking constraints in your community.
Yes. Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel. Yes, there is a change in section 1 when you do see it. So as the chair just said, it does leave the 1 space, but it does add 1.5 spaces with extenuating circumstances. It's so
Out now.
So if you're looking at the bottom of page 1, this is section 1. The new language is in yellow and it goes on to page 2. So for residential uses, a municipality shall not require more than 1 parking space per dwelling unit or accessory dwelling unit. However, a municipality may require 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit if the development is located more than 1/4 of a mile away from public parking, where the need for parking cannot be reasonably met through the use of on-street parking, public parking, or shared parking. Municipalities may round up to the nearest full parking space. And so I added that third sentence about rounding up because I think you heard testimony, and if you can take that out if you want, because you heard testimony that towns will be able to figure it out, but I think it makes it clear there since we're talking about half parking spaces.
I like it. It helps the bill stand alone. People are going to feel like detectives, looking at it being like, but what happened?
Yeah.
And then
And that's what we had talked about. It reflects,
Yeah.
it reflects the opportunity we had discussed.
right, and appreciation to Ellen and Catherine Dimitri who kind of spelled out some of the ways this might come up. Senator Harrison, I see that you thought maybe it would be helpful to add something else.
Yes, well, there were something you and I talked about regarding that specific requirement. I'm okay with this language.
Okay,
But I do think it might be helpful if this is something we can do from a stylistic point of view, is say that the developer can propose whatever number of spaces the developer wants to propose. I mean, that's more of an explanation of the statute and not a new statute. So I don't know if that's something that we could do, but just to be very clear that this is, we're regulating the requirement of the municipality and limiting that, but we're not limiting what the developer can propose.
there might be a way to frame that, but we don't usually talk about the developer
I
in
understand.
our
Yeah.
language. It's kind of like understood that from there on the municipality's in charge.
Right. It's a little bit similar to the language that we have in the by right, where we clarify what by right means.
Mhm.
That would be
Right.
the justification for including something like that.
Yeah, I would agree with Senator Hinsdale that, especially because this is a list of requirements on municipalities here.
That it's not appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, you could, yes, I am not totally crazy about that idea.
I
but,
totally understand. It's just when I explain this to folks,
Right.
I always say, and it's always needed.
Right.
To be said, but I understand.
The other
Can't do
issue,
that in-
just to put a fine point on it, is some municipalities are considering putting parking maximums in.
Oh,
So
sure.
if we said the developer may do what they want, we would also be usurping the role of the municipality to start.
Yeah.
We're just saying this is the sort of max requirement we're allowing.
Right, and just to be clear, I was suggesting that it's the developer may propose, not install.
Okay.
But I understand the concern.
We're kinda
so
like-
I can, yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. So do the members present feel okay with this? It's a little bit of a flexibility.
Yes, I think flexibility is what we were after, and
Yeah.
flexibility in most things.
Okay, in section
Maybe not everything.
2. In section 2, I have at least one change that reflects Senator Clarkson's wishes.
Okay, oh my God, I gotta get to
It's
section
that
2.
we're restoring the owner occupation.
Yes,
Yeah, for ADUs, that's there.
unstrike I have in
Yeah.
March.
So it's been unstruck.
yes,
And I think we heard good reasons for this. It isn't
Yes.
just me.
No, I just
Although,
wanted
of
to.
course, I would love my committee to reflect. It's just, I want.
You advocated well, and there it is.
Uh-oh, David just sent 8.1 and I just sent him my email.
There's gonna be a comment of errors today. Okay.
It's okay.
David is scheduled to come in tomorrow, so.
Yes, that's right. So what we
He's not
can
coming in
do.
today on his sections, just.
Are you carrying all the legislative council water this morning?
Today, yes.
Yeah,
That's good. Well, we still have
So-
lots to do on
Yeah,
this
because
section,
there's
so that's good.
parking density and Act 250, with stormwater in between is enough water. It's a lot of water to carry.
So
So,
I do
Yeah.
potentially see there is gonna be a new draft tomorrow.
yes.
So
Yes.
hopefully that addresses your concern.
Yeah.
So on page 3, there are
Mhm.
2 small changes. You did just mention one of them. On line 12 on page 3, owner occupied has been struck in the ADU section. So ADUs will be required to be on an owner occupied lot. So this will remain the status quo. And there's a small change on line 7, which was sort of a grammar change that I made sure that all of the
Is this in the
phrases-
new draft that we're looking at here,
Yes,
Okay.
8.1.
which we are about to get? This got sent.
Yeah.
You're all on top of it, I know.
So the change on 8.1 was just to make sure all of the phrases throughout matched municipal water and sewer infrastructure. Previously, the word on line 7 was water service, sewer and water service. So I changed it to infrastructure to make sure they're all matched, especially because that's a defined term later.
Got it.
So that was more of a typo.
I will just flag, I am looking to see if no one else is on this except.
So what page sorry, I just have lost you.
Oh, we're on page 3.
Okay,
Yep,
Go.
Scott's got it.
yeah, there it is. I just doesn't say what page you're on. Okay, great.
I don't know where, I don't know if it's on this page or the next page, but Paul Connor from South Burlington, the planner from South Burlington, offered a helpful note that I'll forward this to you. I just saw it. I don't know, I didn't get to it yesterday. To allow pre-existing homes within areas otherwise prohibited from new housing to be allowed to connect to nearby sewer water service. This would allow a home with a failing system or just a wish to use a public monitored system to connect while not otherwise affecting land use policy. I can send you.
Okay, I'll have to look at it.
Yeah.
That sounds more like an actual water connection issue as opposed to a zoning issue. But
Right. I'll just give it to
review
you to, I just want to flag that because it seemed worthwhile if we worry about a situation where we've said, you know, unless you're in an area with no new water sewer allowed, but it pre-existed there and they want to be able to connect, are they like taken care of in the bill? Do we need to change that?
Right, so currently in the bill, you're not mandating or prohibiting any actual connections. All you're requiring is that a town plan for what areas have density
Right.
related to their
Yeah.
sewer and water system. And so I don't think you're changing whether or not there's an existing ability.
That's fair. You might have heard my language around it and been reacting to that.
So I can take a look at it,
I
but
sent it to you.
this bill is not intending to change how towns currently
Right,
allow for connection.
right. And I've been trying to look, people, am I the only one who has the Berry letter? Everyone has it. So I'm trying as we go along.
Berry letter
to
is here,
channel
copy.
Senator Cummings, and we have a letter from Berry that seems pretty general about these issues. Yes, so
Oh, this is from her.
I just wanted to flag in case there was something specific they're proposing, but, and I don't want to on the record say they're not, but I didn't see anything on this section.
Also, it's not addressing our draft, it's addressing H68.
Right. Wait, so, and it's from February 16th, so, okay, I'm ready to move on.
I just have a question on line 7. Does the residential development need to be year-round residential development?
I raised this question the other day. I don't know if you want to have it match what's in the previous sentence. So in the prior sentence related to duplexes, you did add the phrase year-round development.
We had this conversation and we couldn't think of an example where you have municipal water and sewer and you don't allow for year-round.
But
Well, that's one of our criteria later on when we
that's
define areas served by water and sewer.
when we're trying to get rid of the idea of the camps, about
Mhm.
camps. It's
Right.
not, it's
Yes.
about whether they're inhabited full year.
Yeah.
Every non-residential unit can become a residential unit just with a sale. So that should not be a determining factor
Right.
in here.
So we don't want to modify it by
Not,
year-round.
I don't
don't think
believe
so.
so. Not on water, if it's on water infrastructure.
Right.
Seriously.
The reason for the other change was because you might have high camps in high places that you don't want to start duplexing that are like
Right.
grandfathered.
You don't want to be in
Right.
the middle of nowhere, which is where those camps are.
Right, but we are allowing multi-unit with 4, this is the 4-unit.
Only on water infrastructure areas that are appropriate.
Yeah.
Not in the middle of backcountry where you have a hunting camp.
Right.
Right. Okay, I think we actually do modify it that way later on.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't need to do it here, just modify it that way later.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we're ready.
And if we catch it, this bill has a long way to go.
So the next change is on page 4. So this was language that I think was requested by legal aid.
Yes. And did I pass? You got there was a not, that was like a typo, but.
Yeah, we didn't get there yet.
Oh, we haven't got it yet. Okay, no.
Okay, sorry, you're now,
So this is entirely new language that's on page 4. So you don't have anything to compare it to.
I know, but I'm just trying to see where it's fitting in. Oh, I see, the
It's-
Romanettes are here.
It's a
One,
completely unrelated topic that you haven't discussed in a while, but it's related to the legal aid concern related to
Got
motels
it.
and hotels. So no bylaw shall have the effect of prohibiting or penalizing a hotel from renting rooms to provide housing assistance through the state of Vermont's general assistance program or to any person whose room is rented with public funds. The term hotel shall have the same meaning as in 32 VSA 92023.
and why do we need this?
This was, so we have the shelter definition
So
that.
this is further
And
protecting.
they didn't want to leave out the fact that a lot of shelters right now are the hotel motel program, and that if you also said you can't
Okay,
do this
got it.
work in this season, or, you know, you have to like have a curfew on people or whatever, that would also limit their
Okay,
ability to operate.
got it.
And I just bolded the word assistance because the language that was submitted just read Vermont's general program. And
Okay.
Yeah, it
I,
needs to
think
say
you're right.
general.
I'm not an expert
Yeah.
in this field at all, and so I think it might be assistance, but I'm happy to be corrected on that.
We'll let the record show, but I think
Yes.
you're correct.
So if someone
Yeah.
can confirm or deny that that is what the proper program
Right.
is called.
And even though that wasn't caught, I just want to say, to my knowledge, from the email thread I have, this was proposed by legal aid and accepted by the state AHS folks. So this is not a controversial thing we're including. This was a concern people wanted to close out.
Fine by me.
And then Wendy, I don't know exactly where, maybe this waits to the section on emergency shelter.
You mean that language?
No, you had funded by the Agency of Human Services, and
Oh,
That's
that
another
was
big-
when we were in the definition
to
of,
it.
emergency shelter.
okay, so I think
That was
just
just
a little
to,
further down.
respond to the league in a different way.
Okay,
Okay, so still on page 4, down in the next subsection, this is subsection 12 is the density section related to 5 units per acre. And so there are some small changes here. So in any district served by municipal water, sewer and water infrastructure that allows residential development, bylaws shall establish lot and building dimensional standards that allow 4 or more dwelling units per acre for each allowed residential use, and density standards for multi-unit dwellings shall not be more restrictive than those required for single-family dwellings. So obviously the typo that 12 different people emailed me about on line 17 has been fixed. And then on line 15, 2 separate things are happening. So first, previously this section required 5 units per acre. And that has been changed to 4.
we can, I'm sorry, I was drinking water, but we can pause there and I can address that. I think I ran this by folks out of committee when I could, based on a conversation we were having in committee about, specifically Senator Cummings continuing to raise that this 5 felt like it was cluttering the view shed and out of Vermont character in certain places, even along development corridors. And I asked Senator Cummings what she thought of 4, which could be a house and a barn, if you think about the size of it. A single family home and a triplex, 2 duplexes, but some combination of things that
And a
seems
mega barn.
very appropriate for the scale of the Vermont landscape. And I won't speak for her, but she didn't raise additional concerns in our conversation. So this reflects a compromise. Anyone have any objections which I want to raise?
No, I think that answers the concern of that we've discussed repeatedly.
Let us hope so.
And then also the word each has been added. So this was a request from the sheriff.
Yeah, so Catherine Dimitrick suggested that just as a way to be more clear, I guess, about now I'm forgetting exactly what concern she was trying to answer. Bylaw shall establish a building with allowed residential use.
I think part of her point was that didn't want to allow towns to set different standards for different types of buildings.
Right, thank you. So I appreciated that suggestion. And I don't think it materially changes anything, it just serves as specific. Okay.
All right, so the next change is in subparagraph, subsection 13 at the bottom of page 4 onto page 5. And this language, if you have the prior draft, you could see this language in subdivision 13 is going to restore the building height density bonus. So affordable and mixed-use housing can exceed building height limitations by one additional habitable floor beyond the maximum height. And using that floor may exceed density limitations by an additional 40%.
So I will,
So if we had 20%, right?
Yes, but in your prior drafts, prior to the 7.2 version, it had, this is the language that had been there.
I asked for this to be restored and to discuss it further because I just felt like I was hearing more meh, like a floor bonus doesn't really help us. But then, you know, some folks started to write in and say, you know, there's a lot of places where we're not talking about like a historic skyline that's protected in the context of like it's in a historic district or downtown, where they're severely limited by the number of floors they can go up. And if we're talking about both stormwater and, you know, density and like
No,
how we
it has
achieve
met
this.
all those,
Yeah.
all those requirements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm putting it back on the table because I just felt like there was no champion for it.
And in some of our very restricted downtowns, which are up is better than out.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I will support this at the moment. And again, it has a long way to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
So up at the moment is better than out. Sports are smart growth.
Right. And it especially felt important if we hear, you know, that is preferable from an impervious surface perspective. We
Oh.
already have the question on the table. Okay.
Okay, so on page 5, there's another very small change. This was another grammar change that I'm proposing. So on line, what is line 6 on page 15, or page 5, but subdivision 15A, for purposes of this section, an area served by municipal and water sewer infrastructure means, I added the word area because it read awkwardly.
Yeah.
You are a page. Thanks. I love it when they come back warm. Do you remember when we used to get mimeograph things and you could, remember that smell? Oh.
I do.
So our
Thank
21st
you.
century version of it.
But probably to some council.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, you're too young.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and say we have 8.1, so that means the public will now.
I can post it.
I
Yeah, he's
think,
gonna post.
you know, better or worse, I think we should post it. I don't think there's anything too concerning. There's just a little bit of back and forth about where we are with things, but I'm okay with it being posted now that we have it in our hands.
Right, and as I've said before, this draft is still unedited. I have reserved time this afternoon for the editors
Yes.
to catch any further typos that are in there.
And that is much appreciated because I don't think we want to vote on a bill that the editors haven't seen, which is money.
Sorry, what, Scott?
You want me to keep sharing the screen?
Can you keep sharing? It helps me. I don't know, but if you need to do other things.
I'm happy to look at it because then I can
I'll
write on it.
switch over to this version.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, we're on page 5. Top of the page. Okay, 40%. Okay.
Yep. The next change is on page 8. Again, a small change that we discussed for the purposes of grammar. So on page 8 in section 4, the definition section, a small change has been made to the definition of duplex. Duplex means a residential building that has 2 dwelling units in the same building, and neither unit is an accessory dwelling unit.
Got it. Great. That's clarity for you.
The next change is on page 10. So page 10 is section 5 of the bill. This is the section on the report that municipalities are required to submit when they update their bylaws. And so there's a proposal to strike the first 2 requirements of this report, which are on page 10. So confirming that the zoning districts have been uploaded, and confirming that the bylaw has been uploaded.
Senator Clarkson, I wanted you to have a moment with this because I'm a bit agnostic. I think this puts more onus on DHCD to help communities get this information in whatever way they already do, but it doesn't put a statutory requirement from our end onto municipalities. is how I understand.
So we're striking all of this. Yeah, I'm not fully clear on the implications here, but I am, the reasons for doing this, again, sorry, Ellen, are, I apologize to.
Right, so I'll just take a step back and say that this, currently under the statute, municipalities are required to submit
Right,
a report already to DHCD. This was requiring a more detailed report with additional elements.
Right.
I don't know if you want to hear from Senator Harrison.
Do you want me to respond to that? Because
I
this
think
is-
that would be great. And also I know that we're going to have more data through the landlords, through some other, the landlord certificate, the house is going to work on, I think, adding some more data.
Yeah,
And this is
yes,
collection.
my
And
concern,
this is mapping.
Yeah.
So this was considered too burdensome for municipalities?
it's not the reporting, it's the requiring the municipalities to directly
I got
upload to the state database, to two state databases, I think is unreasonable.
At this point,
Uh,
you mean you just don't think enough towns have that software?
yes, very much so. I think sending the report to the state
Mhm.
in an email or in a paper format, which I believe is what's required now, is perfectly reasonable. And if the municipalities can upload it, I think allowing them to and encouraging them to is great.
Are we encouraging them here by
I-
striking all this
I
language?
don't know how, I don't know language to encourage them, so I was
So we could just-
suggesting that we eliminate the requirement that they directly upload to the state's database and let the
So-
state.
In all honesty, a
Yeah.
paper thing coming to DHCD is a challenge. I mean, that's not, if they're capable of uploading it, I think we should be encouraging them to.
I agree.
Because increasingly towns, if they have a zoning and planning person on deck, probably have this. Not, and you're right, not all towns do yet. But I think if we could come up with some language that encouraged them to do so if they have the capacity, that would save, it would save all the way around. I mean, if it's not difficult for them to do it, we should be encouraging them to do
I
it.
agree. I don't know how to encourage them in
We could just say that.
legislation.
If a town has the capacity to do so, we'd encourage them to do so.
I think,
There has to be some way.
Leave
that
this
we
to
can
the
do that.
statute if we
staff, because
Yeah.
they have an incentive to encourage the towns, so they can determine that, or the regional commissions.
I
Yes,
mean, I
so
think
do
what
that.
we heard was a conflict between DHCD saying,
right.
yeah, we give them money to do this through our PCs, and some towns saying, not all of us,
Right.
and not, so
Sure.
it's like, there's already an unspoken way in which they work it out where they can, and they're now giving more money for technical assistance where they're not.
Which we're sending to the RPCs for more technical assistance and,
To give, to
Yes.
distribute.
okay. So if we can't come up with language to encourage them, then I guess this is the second best thing.
Yeah, I think mandating a system that hasn't even happened yet.
Right.
Doesn't make sense and would be
Okay.
burdensome.
Then let's not do that.
And I would also suggest that if the state has agreements with the RPCs, then that could be part of the agreements with the RPCs.
Exactly, and that's
And
kind of
that's a
what they
better
said,
place to
it could
put
be
it.
unspoken rather than us
Well, and also if
putting
they,
a new requirement.
yeah, and if they benefit from
Prematurely.
having them sent, they're gonna be encouraging them big time. And
Right,
encouraging RPCs.
I
Fine,
think
then I'm fine with
if
it.
we get to the change in section 15, then we've gotten ourselves up to Act 250, and we can let you go.
Madam Chair, I did have
Yeah.
one thing, I'm sorry.
Okay.
On page 7,
Yeah.
I know this is going back, but in the definition of emergency shelters,
Mhm.
so we have the definition in 2 different places. But
We have, that's not where the definition is.
It's,
The definition's on page 8.
so I guess this would be more of an explanation of what would items that would be limited by
Good morning.
municipalities to regulate.
You
or
must have
types
heard
of
us.
places. And so, I think we previously had talked about, and I had advocated for, but I don't know where we ended up, was that it would be, let me get the language right, and this is, a VLCT suggestion, or it's a truncated VLCT suggestion, would be emergency shelters funded by the Agency of Human Services. So it would be a specific, like, authorized, formal.
I will just say,
Emergency
a
shelter.
concern I have without that being run by our other housing
Yeah,
partners
I-
is we've gotten a lot of federal money. There's been a lot of AHS money that's flowed, but if that money stopped flowing and a community still needed a shelter, that's an unforeseen consequence of this language that I don't think we can think through in a day.
And again, this has ways to go. So if you,
Okay.
Yeah,
if
I think
if
I
there's
I
that,
know,
Okay.
I'm just more worried, like, what are we not thinking of?
Right.
And some shelter that is beloved is gonna come forward and be like, we're no longer protected, we're no longer in the definition of shelter.
Right, and this, okay, that's fine.
So that, I think, brings us to section 15, and then we'll move to Commissioner Phelan.
Yeah, so on page 20, again, a small change in section 15. So page 20, line 8, the Vermont Association of Planning and Development Agencies shall hire housing resource navigators to work with municipalities, regional and local housing organizations, and private developers. So regional was added.
That was your,
right? This is good.
great. Okay, if everybody's okay with that, yeah, go ahead.
No, I just want to confirm
Mhm.
at the moment, what I'm referring to, I mean, mostly I have been in our work of the last year and a half,
Mhm.
the housing resource navigators, Josh, were what we allotted for in ADU work and are embedded in the home ownership partners at the moment. I mean, that's my understanding. And we're just gonna work to expand that here.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, no, I just want, I mean, because the only navigators I know of at the moment.
Welcome to the Committee for Commissioners.
Sorry, yes, we're just talking about you, or your department. Is that my understanding? Is that right? Is that we're gonna sort of build the housing resource navigators out from the home ownership centers?
Josh Hanford, Commissioner of Housing and Development, for the record. This is our language, so we didn't propose in the governor's budget, so,
Right.
this is a proposal from the, RPCs and planning folks, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The VHIP money that was funded with ARPA funds allowed for up to $800,000 to be used to market and support ADUs.
Right.
There's nothing about hired navigators at the department but we use the home ownership centers to distribute those funds. And they do have staff that help homeowners, landlords, access a variety of programs.
Right.
They're not professional housing navigators nor experts in ADU.
They're becoming experts fast.
They're learning a
because
lot.
they're dealing now with a lot of.
I
right.
see this, as I read it, to be something different.
Okay, that's what I went.
think it's interesting that New Hampshire has just moved through the Senate, what they're calling housing champion communities, where they're providing money supported with a number of foundations to literally roll out the red carpet for communities that are pro-housing with anything you can think of to help them try to get more housing development, including navigators, permits, funding applications, training. It seems along the same line.
Okay, great. I'm very supportive of this, so this is great. I just was curious where it sat with what we already have, which is a tiny, tiny piece of it.
Yes, we'll have to defend this new.
Yep, no, this is good.
position, so. Thank you so much, Ellen, and
I'll be back around 10.
yes, we're gonna focus on Act 250 then and probably have to revisit it.
We're hoping we'll be off the floor by 10.
Oh, sure. Oh, great. Yeah.
I'm hoping we'll be off the floor by 10 too.
I think given the things we're discussing on the floor, it may be a little longer.
Commissioner, thanks so much for your patience. So we're just hemmed in by the bell for the floor. But we appreciate you being here probably for 20 or so minutes
Great.
to talk about a concern that was became very prescient in the committee around stormwater regulation, impervious surface, and new density requirements that might place on municipalities, how it impacts them.
Thanks for having me, John Bealing, for the record, the Commissioner for the Department of Environmental Conservation.
And I think this is your first time in
In
the
this-
committee,
yes, in this
so
committee, yes.
welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm just gonna plagiarize Senator Clarkson. With stormwater, up is better than out. So that's kind of, that's a general rule. So really it has to do with, it's all about the impervious surface. So it's horizontal, it's not vertical. So if you're already subject to jurisdiction and you don't increase the amount of impervious surface, then it's not even relevant. It's only where you increase the amount of impervious surface in order to support whatever kind of buildings you're gonna put in a town center. So, and there's also a very crucial distinction, I think, between development and redevelopment. So I think a lot of where this is headed, I would anticipate would be what we consider redevelopment. We'll be taking, hopefully some existing structures and repurposing them. In that situation, it's a very reduced regulatory burden in terms of stormwater, both the permitting side of it and the infrastructure side of it. So if you're redeveloping a property, you don't have to meet 1 out of 5 criteria. It's basically water quality you need to meet. So it really, part of our regulation, like what you're trying to do here, is to encourage redevelopment of properties versus developing greenfields. Right? We want to try to keep things from getting small and having more impervious surfaces. That's not great for our water bodies. So in a nutshell, for a lot of potential developments, it may not even be relevant. If it's redevelopment, I don't, typically it wouldn't, and I can't speak for this, I'm not in industry, but I don't believe it would be substantial cost for a project. It's where you have new development over a half acre. You're gonna need to pay permitting fees. The infrastructure required nowadays for new development is pretty robust. So, it's significant. It's not insignificant. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't know that,
I'm trying to channel Senator Cummings.
Yeah.
Do a good job of that.
Which is a challenge because she's the one who cares passionately about this issue. And when you talk about half an acre, you're talking about half an acre of additional impervious surface.
additional impervious surface.
And I mean, when she came in, I won't name any towns or try to be too specific, but she came in saying that this community, the municipality had received some kind of stormwater charge from the state. What do those constitute?
So it depends. If it's a municipality, it could be subject to what's called an MS4 permit, which stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. That's why they say MS4.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if that's the case, then they're gonna pay a permitting fee. That fee is only $10 per acre annually. So
Okay.
that's not.
Maybe our most modest fee in the state.
That's very, so it really depends, if it's a municipality, if they're not MS4, then they're subject to the same rates. But I can get you those numbers.
They're subject to the same rates if they develop versus the developer. They're not.
Yes, there's no real distinction, Brian. I mean,
Okay.
only municipalities can get MS4 permits.
Right.
So if they're not an MS4 municipality, they would come into the stormwater permitting program just like anyone else. I don't have that on top of my head. I can certainly get that, what that cost is.
Okay.
And it really, again, it depends, excuse me, if they're talking about new development, it's not just the fees, it's also the cost of developing the infrastructure. So if it's new development, it could be, a substantial part of, not huge, but part of the project. You got to factor that into your costs.
So, sorry to interrupt, but if you're saying you have to meet this additional requirement in your development because there's new impervious surface, that adds to their cost.
If it's new development.
Yeah.
Right, so even
Like a
if
sidewalk.
but if it's an existing, so if it's existing and it's redeveloped, right, and you trigger it by adding half an acre, then you're subject to these lesser requirements and permitting fees. If you're just building something from a greenfield, right, then their municipalities are the same standing as a private citizen. There's no set. The MS4 program is the way to go for municipalities.
Yeah.
I think we have 14 in the state.
Okay. So,
I know this is for somebody who's not an aficionado about wastewater permitting at all.
Yeah.
when you go up,
Yeah.
like with a parking garage, you'd go up, right?
Yeah.
With impervious surface, you're still paying, no matter, even if you go up, you're paying for the square footage, whether it's up or out. You're paying the same amount. I mean, you could have half an acre going up and 6 floors. let's
Yeah,
say, or 4
it's only the horizontal, so just use,
Right.
so it's only the actual, so if you're, let's say you've got an existing permit for a half an acre, right, and whatever you're paying is. what
That's a
you're paying.
huge amount of impervious.
Of where it touches the ground.
That's like, we're talking about like parking lots. Just think of it as-
No, I know, but when
yeah,
parking lots go up or
that's
down,
not- that
you don't
doesn't-
get charged
No, it's only.
per square foot.
No, it's not.
So the
That's
impact,
stormwater.
so, and just, I have to understand this, but, so the impact of 4 floors of parking don't have more impact than just 1 floor of the same square footage?
I don't believe so. I'm going to ask the expert.
That is above our pay grade,
He-
but I don't see why that would be the case.
He is on
because the water's
standby,
not
so I will ask
they're
the
getting in.
stormwater program man. It's never been.
Anyway.
understanding, but that's a good question.
No, it's okay. It's not critical to this bill, so don't waste your time on it too much, but
Okay.
I am curious about that because up produces still more square footage of parking that has runoff possibly.
under a roof, so it's
Yeah.
kind of a bird's.
If
I would
it's
imagine there's
under,
a
yes,
bird's
it
eye
would all
view.
be obviously under.
Yeah, so it's running off of only so.
Well, it's, yeah, I
Like
don't,
each floor.
anyway,
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it, but it is interesting to me that up is better than down.
Like I said, he's probably watching us as we speak, so I'm gonna shoot him.
Can you take over?
Oh, okay. Well, we're now don't have a quorum.
Oh,
So then I can ask a ton of questions, right?
You can,
Is
but we
that
don't have a quorum,
okay?
so we're not doing business. We're just asking.
Okay, so, do you mind? So
I don't mind.
impervious is,
Me?
is as if you're looking from the top at the site. And it's everything that's not, ground, like
Think of this pavement.
grass.
Yeah,
Pavement.
Pavement or concrete, I mean, that's pretty.
But the roof counts as impervious surface. It has to,
Correct. Thank you.
From a stormwater perspective.
yes.
It's got runoff.
it
The
does
roof-
have runoff.
Anything that's not
Anyway, it's
either
just
like a
interesting.
lake or grass or something where the water can
I
percolate.
think
Right.
you in my senses, again, I'm a lawyer, I'm not an engineer, so
Okay.
I'm just trying to make sense of it from a regulatory perspective. My sense is it's probable that if you're looking down at it, you just add up all that acreage. I don't think you stack up those.
No.
It's never gonna.
No,
wanna come
no,
back to our
I
building.
see all the heads nodding no, but it is just. For
Does the
those
roof,
of us
does
who
the
are new
roof
to this,
count?
it's
The
just
roof probably
interesting.
counts.
The roof
right? But I
has
don't
to
think
count.
I don't think you'd be adding, I mean, that'd be a huge roof.
I think you can nerd out with somebody about.
It's
this.
okay, we're gonna
Maybe
nerd out.
it's
I already
certain
had a
types of
disclaimer.
material or
It was just,
something.
yeah. That's fine.
Okay,
Well-
well, let's make sure we're channeling all of our concerns. Yes. Senator.
Well, the redevelopment is interesting because I can't imagine that it would be the case that, say, you would have a shed, right? And on a piece of property, and then you could build something 10 times as big as that shed, and there wouldn't be some sort of impact to the quantity of stormwater produced.
So in your
But maybe, I mean,
hypothetical-
if that's the case, that's a huge, huge incentive for redevelopment.
So you're saying
Yes.
you're just increasing the size of the building that sits on that.
Right, but say by 10 times, huge amount.
It's the surface area in plain view. That's what my expert tells me. So that means looking down. So if that increases, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because you're building on top of an impervious surface, presumably. If you're, let's say
No, I'm
you've
saying,
got grass,
say a shed with grass all around.
grass all around it, then you would probably, if it's a half acre, that's a huge building,
Yeah,
right? So
Yeah.
if you build a huge building that half acre of impervious surface on its roof,
yeah.
theoretically that would trigger jurisdiction. That seems very large to me. If we're going-
I'm just exaggerating for purposes
Yeah.
of
Like
talking
the
about it.
Davis Center.
But I
So-
I'm
can't
thinking like
imagine.
the biggest buildings.
So eagle eye view, you just mark it out and say how much impervious surface we have, counting roofs, counting
County
ground
road,
surface.
yes, yes.
In case you
Okay.
did.
1.5 acre total or more, that triggers jurisdiction. If it's pre-existing, it's not subject to jurisdiction, it's just.
You only do that one,
So
just
if
the
you've already got
quality.
a permit and you haven't increased beyond,
Right.
right, then you already have.
I think a fair amount of places don't have permits, stormwater permits, if they've been around for a while.
Right, it came into, well, there's been, it all depends on when the project started. There's been stormwater permit requirements for many years. The most recent up to date was in 2022, July 1st. That went down from 3 acres to a half acre.
Okay,
Okay, so anything from July 1st, 2022 forward is subject to those types of permits. There was a 3 acre permit for
Right.
2 years. So they've been around for a while. This is all part of our efforts to basically protect the lakes, right? This is all about runoff and trying to.
Yeah,
reduce stormwater
right.
runoff.
We-
So we've been,
We know,
bringing it down. And so at this point, it's a half acre.
okay,
But and there's some exemptions to the 2022. Basically, if it was in process, there's like 4 different exemptions. But
Okay.
it also do with kind of where it is in the process. It's possible that they're still subject to the 3 acre. But if you start today, right, as you strip from scratch, whether it's redevelopment or development, if it's a half acre or more of impervious surface, you're subject to jurisdiction.
got
okay.
it. And that makes sense, given the impact on the environment.
Right.
Totally makes
No,
sense.
and that's what other states do. Yeah.
So Senator Brock, just to contribute a little bit, we did first start to try to channel Senator Cummings' concerns about when a municipality might have to pay for increased density from our bill. The commissioner thought they'd be treated like any developer and it would be whatever they're building that's new and not redevelopment, and that seemed fairly modest. Do you have any sense of like the highest charge you have put out in the last year to a municipality? I don't know. Senator Cummings came in with some big number and it wasn't
So-
clear what that was.
I could find.
We need her here.
I could find
Yeah,
out
I
the
know.
permitting. My sense is that the permitting is one issue. It's the infrastructure.
Mhm,
That can be
mhm.
very expensive, right? So if they're talking about it and they're subject to, let's say they're subject to the 3 acre, the infrastructure cost could be quite high.
Okay, so, and that's if they're doing an infrastructure project, no, this is out of my, I don't want, what kinds of projects cost the most?
It really depends on the amount of impervious surface. If you're
Okay.
developing a huge Walmart, a huge parking lot.
Yeah.
To accommodate, thousands of cars, that's gonna cost a lot of money.
And Walmart owes that, and you're saying Walmart, you have to put like culverts or stormwater management catchment systems.
It's very case specific, so they could
Yeah.
have to put in treatment, there's all different things you potentially need to put in, depends on what you're near, if you're really close to
Yeah.
various waterways. things
So
like-
municipality would be like a parking garage, a new fire station, something like
Things of
that.
that nature, right? But you're typically not gonna see the level of scale that you would at the commercial one.
Right.
I think we're a bit stuck until Ann joins us.
We know how to email you.
Yes.
And we will try to relay this to Senator Cummings. Senator Brock, you can jump in.
No, I'm listening for right now.
Yeah, if you felt
I
like.
gather that you're saying that the impervious surface costs associated with stormwater go to the development. Is that correct?
If it's a private development, right? It depends
Yeah.
on-
So if we're talking about a housing development, if we're talking about emergency housing, if we're talking about
Yes.
temporary shelter, all of those things go as part of the
Right.
development. Now,
Yes.
it's an existing structure and it's being repurposed for this new use. Would the same thing apply? It needed additional parking?
Yes.
If you need additional parking.
If
but
it increases, so if you.
Not if it doesn't.
You're not increase, so you don't have a permit and you're not adding half an acre, and you're not in jurisdiction. If you have an existing permit and you're expanding that, then you would be, typically that would be considered redevelopment, which both the permitting fees are lower and the cost for infrastructure are lower. So we're trying to encourage redevelopment, plus we're recognizing that redevelopment already has, it already has impacts.
So what is curious here is I don't know why every developer doesn't build parking underneath whatever they're developing, because clearly that's less expensive. And
Come to the
Up,
Burlington
not
City
out.
Council and tell them that. Why don't you just?
Well,
no, it's expensive to do, but it's less expensive on all the other fronts.
Well, the construction's a lot more expensive.
So for other than
Depends.
MS4, I have just the numbers. I don't have, applied to a specific project, but application is $240. That's a one-time cost.
Okay.
And then 860 per acre of impervious. That's just the application, right? And then annual,
Okay, $860
per acre of impervious. That's a
That's
one-time,
lot
but
of
that's a
impervious
one-time.
service.
That's a one-time.
Okay, I see.
So that's when you apply. You got to pay $240 to apply, and then
New impervious.
calculate, this is new. And so, right, and then the annual fee is $160.
And I will note, these fees have not gone up since 2016 when Governor Scott became governor, because we have not had a fee bill in 7 years. Just saying that your fees are not supporting your work any longer.
I know.
And that burden is now being put on the general fund.
He's never gonna wanna come back to our committee. We don't have to answer that.
It's okay, he probably, yeah, right.
It isn't covering.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a report every year that confirms it.
Right, right.
We're
That's fair.
supposed to identify programs that are supported by fees, and the number is 0. So that's not a secret.
Okay. Senator Harrison.
If you could send us the information that you said,
She
you
wanted
would,
just the highest project.
I think, you talked about the, general structure of the permits. It sounded as if there might be a high level explanation of the permits
For,
for stormwater.
okay, I can.
Like a chart of the permit.
Yeah,
Of which-
yeah.
of
If you have
various-
something like that,
Yeah.
Something just basically new development, redevelopment, that's what you want.
Right.
That might help us
Associated
out,
with
Colleen.
each.
right, just so, I mean, if we took notes wrong. you
Right.
know.
Yeah, so just so I'm clear, so you want new development, redevelopment, permitting fees, and then, well, infrastructure is gonna be case by case. I can't really tell you that, but I can tell you
Right.
this is how it works. And then, yeah, we can get that. to you.
Great, and then, just if you have anything on stormwater utilities, because that's a way for folks to finance stormwater. I don't know if you have that, but if the division or department does anything to help folks make stormwater utilities, I talked about that a little bit when Ann had her concern.
I don't know if there's assistance for that. It's the bigger communities that have that.
Right,
I'm not sure. I know that there are some grants available under ARPA, and I believe that they were limited to Lake Champlain and the Fremont watersheds. That's the
Okay.
only financing that I'm familiar with. I think that's gonna roll out though and cover more jurisdictions.
I thought in the infrastructure bill that there was more
There-
coming down.
Well, but if you're talking about a utility, I mean, for
Oh,
just
okay.
granting for infrastructure, yes, it is gonna expand. I don't have that in front of me in terms of what the timing is. I know some communities have reached out to us and they just weren't in the right watershed yet.
Okay.
So that's gonna be the timing.
and then the other thing I was gonna ask for is what you just talked about, the, communities that are primed for investment in water and sewer. Because there is that list somewhere in the department of places that can be funded with ARPA, or that are likely to be funded with ARPA.
I think there are a few projects that have been identified.
Yeah, and that would be really helpful for this committee to know, because then we can be targeted about where housing should go.
If the commissioner can get that.
Well, it does exist,
Yeah.
is what I've heard in other committees.
I could find out. I mean, the only thing I'll say to that is that, there are other limiting factors beyond financing. So there are some just physical limitations on both wastewater and drinking water. And so
Oh,
it should really depend, so even if there's a lot of money available, it doesn't mean that their supply is gonna be adequate.
I understand.
Yeah, so thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Commissioner, for
Thank
coming
you.
on short notice and all of the things, and following up, and you can do that through
I'll
Scott.
send the
We'll get it
follow-up to
to
Scott,
every-
and then if you need more follow-up, I can get that.
Okay,
Thank
great.
And it's great to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank
I
you
like
for
the-
your
I like the
help
up, not out.
previously.
That's a good catchphrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be if you had to count every